I watched that movie on a date.
How'd that go?
We don't talk anymore.
There's a lot of Marvel news out there, sometimes too much to keep track of. Today we're going to talk about a bunch of Marvel movie and TV news and figure out what's interesting about any of it, if we can. Watch the video to find out what we discussed. So today we are going to talk a little bit about Marvel news. There's a lot of Marvel news out there and we're going to talk about it. And I'm going to read you some stuff and I'm going to ask you to tell me what you think about it. So first thing we're going to talk about is Mr. Fantastic in the new
Let's talk about that.
Doctor Strange movie.
Mr. Spaghetti. That's what we call him around.
We call him Mr. Spaghetti. So,
Mr. Spaghetti.
I think we got two bits of Mr. Fantastic news. I'm going to ask each one of you for comment on it. The first one I'm going to ask, this one's for Tom to react to. So the Hollywood Reporter caught up with an actor named Alex Hyde White. Are you familiar with this actor, Tom?
Probably not.
Alex Hyde White played Mr. Fantastic in the Roger Corman Fantastic Four movie.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Did you ever see it?
Yeah, I have a special place in my heart for that.
I mean, it's pretty bad. We can agree on that, right?
It's, exactly what it was supposed to be.
It's Roger Corman. We all know what we're signing up for.
Yeah. So they asked
a big rubber arm on a stick poking out of the top of a car.
Right, the big limo shot at the end.
It's perfect. Yeah,
it is pretty great. So
it's a good time.
THR caught up with him and basically asked him, what did you think of John Krasinski in the role of Mr. Fantastic? And he said, well, that's not a surprise. He's been rumored for a while. It's exciting. He's proved himself to be a heck of a storyteller. And as a lead actor and a producer and director, Krasinski is a force to be reckoned with because he has a joy of storytelling and he's a good leader. Those are Reed Richards' characteristics. If you were to send out a casting spec for Reed Richards, you would say, excellent leader, controlled freak, but nice about it. Collaborator, willing to take the blame, which I felt was the psychological currency of our Fantastic Four. We dealt with the motivations of the characters. Tom, you're shaking your head. What do you think?
Well, I hate to be a curmudgeon about it, but personally, if I'm putting out a casting notice for Mr. Fantastic, number one with a bullet, very stretchy. I want a guy who is very, very stretchy.
Yeah, I don't know anything about John Krasinski's flexibility. Mm-hmm. Can he do a split?
I mean,
I don't know.
He can do action. We know that from...
Anybody can do action, Brian.
Really?
Yeah.
Anybody can do action. Mm-hmm. Can you turn your head around 3 times in a row? Can you turn your arm into a corkscrew? Can you?
Oh, that would be so useful for me.
I can't do any of this.
Can you do a big rubber ball and bounce around?
The other...
Sorry, so what was the...
Yeah, I don't know. Just what's your reaction to that? What are your feelings on that reaction? How you seem to exude joy at hearing from this guy.
I'm just excited that somebody thought, who we should ask about this is the guy from the movie that was never officially released. Right. I think anybody who watched the documentary that they made about the making of that movie, I think it's called Doomed, and it's up on Amazon Prime for free, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe you're right.
Anybody who watched that is going to feel a lot of camaraderie with everybody that got put through the process of making that movie, and cool that somebody decided to pick up the phone.
How great would it have been if they got him instead of Krasinski to show up in Doctor Strange?
That would have been the Sam Raimiest move.
Yeah.
No one would have known who it was.
Do you think he pitched it and they were like, no?
Sam Raimi?
Yeah.
I could see that, actually. I could definitely see that. Yeah, that would be amazing. All right. The next bit of Reed Richards news is and we're going to hear from this guy a lot, Jeremy Slater, the head writer for Moon Knight, happened to also be the writer of the first draft of Josh Trank's Fantastic Four movie.
Oh.
Whoops. Okay.
And so apparently the showrunners from Moon Knight, or at least some of the producers, the production team, are going to go work on this Fantastic Four movie. And comicbook.com went and caught up with Jeremy Slater and asked him about the Krasinski cameo and what his vision of the Reed Richards character is. And I'd like for you to respond to this. He says, I think Reed is a character that's very easy to play as a fuddy-duddy and to play as the least cool guy in the room. And he's always slightly distant. There's a reason that Sue, Reed's wife, in the comics is always running off to Namor because Reed is obsessed with some gizmo that he just invented. And the version that always struck me is, no, Reed Richards is Buzz Aldrin. He's Juan Ponce de Leon. He is an explorer. He's an adventurer. I think Krasinski would do a really good job of embodying that sense of he's not the sort of fuddy-duddy grandfatherly Reed Richards. He's a Reed Richards that could be brilliant and commanding and very cool. So I think he'd be a great choice. What is your response to all that? Because
Buzz Aldrin?
That's his, like, he's an explorer. He's going to yell at the moon with Liz Lemon.
I think maybe he could have picked, I don't know, any other astronaut. Just literally any different person. I was distracted through the whole second half of that quote because my brain was just going, Buzz Aldrin?
Did you get that sense that Krasinski embodied this idea of the explorer, or that he could?
No, he was on screen for 8 minutes and then he got turned into pool noodles. Like, no. I didn't get any sense of anything from him. I was like, oh, it's John Krasinski. And then he died. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I have no reaction to this because I think people are just putting way too much stock in this. I mean, I'm sure Krasinski's being offered like an SUV full of money or like a yacht full of money or a private jet full of money, realistically, by Kevin Feige to come back and do this again. And I'm sure they want Emily Blunt to come in as Sue Storm. And look, I mean, if Kevin Feige can make this guy who has shown over the past couple of years that he kind of just wants to make his cool horror movies and do his own thing into a mega franchise, then great. But the amount that everybody is, or the amount of stock everybody's putting in a cameo that was like less than 15 minutes maybe total,
right? Yeah,
is maybe a little insane to me.
Yeah, I think I agree. I certainly appreciated seeing Reed Richards, but my opinion after seeing it during it, I was like, there he is. And I didn't get any sense of an actual character there. It just felt like John Krasinski in a Fantastic Four outfit with a beard.
And he
it's like,
I mean, the whole thing also was like very awkward because he was never meeting anybody's correct eye line. Like it was clearly not filmed.
So
like,
clearly shot on a different day.
And so like for half of it, I was just like, okay, yeah, he wasn't even there. Like this doesn't, I don't know. He was John Krasinski. He was like, he was jacked John Krasinski, not Jim Halpert John Krasinski. That's my piping hot take. You're welcome, internet.
I would be curious to see what he would do in a full movie if the character was written as a character instead of as
fan service.
Fan service, exactly. So yeah, I mean,
it's a character with like 60 years of history, and they've written him all sorts of different ways, and there's a ton of ways to make him interesting, but they don't.
Have they ever written a version of him where he looks directly into the camera anytime somebody says something stupid? That's my question.
Just one where he's hiding behind some blinds and
he's always
staring, self-satisfied,
making faces at what someone else says.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got another Jeremy Slater quote. Bunch of
After
quotes.
That first one, I've got low hopes. Go on.
So this is about Moon Knight cameos that almost happened.
Oh, okay.
So 2 separate cameos that almost happened, that were being discussed, that were maybe written in, that were being negotiated, but both got cut. One was Dane Whitman, played by Kit Harington from the Eternals. And so Jeremy Slater spoke to Comic Book about this, and he said, we talked about Dane Whitman a little bit because we felt just because he works in a history museum and that could be a natural interaction. My feeling was if we got Kit Harington to show up and he doesn't suit up and he doesn't kick ass, as a fan, I'm pissed off. So basically what he's saying is Kit Harington in the Eternals, for those who didn't watch it, works in a museum as a history professor guy. And Stephen Grant in Moon Knight also works in a museum. We don't know exactly what museum either one might be. I think it's implied that both might have been the British Museum, but I don't think it's made clear. But either way, pretty natural fit. They're both in London. Could have crossed paths easily. But basically he's saying that because we weren't going to transform him into the Black Knight, which fans are waiting to happen based on the post-credit scene from Eternals, we decided not to do it because we didn't want to make fans angry. And the other one was...
It's a great point because when
go ahead.
Charlie Cox showed up in Spider-Man No Way Home, everybody was like, oh, well, that stinks.
Yeah. Well, the other one that they were discussing was Kingo. played by Kumail Nanjiani, who is
I was
apparently...
hoping it was the moon played by Noel Fielding from The Mighty Boosh.
Apparently, Jeremy Slater is friends with Kumail Nanjiani, and he said, quote, "I wanted some Kingo. At one point, there was a flashback on the page that sort of showed one of Khonshu's avatars back in ancient Egypt, sort of dealing with Ammit being locked away and Alexander the Great and all that stuff. You sort of saw this avatar team up with the Eternals. It was a really fun scene, but it was so massively expensive to recreate ancient Egypt to sort of bring in 3 or 4 of the Eternals to have this big action sequence. So it got cut for budget." So ultimately, 2 times they could have folded in the Eternals, which has, to my feelings, basically been forgotten by most Marvel fans at this point. Tom, what's your reaction to that? Are you bummed that we didn't get any Eternals crossover? Are you relieved that Moon Knight was kind of cut off from the wider MCU overall?
Brian, you know me. You know I'm Eternals till I die. I can't stop talking about Eternals. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and I message you about how great the Eternals were. Who was your favorite Eternal? Nina? The point is, I thought that it was kind of... I really appreciated that Moon Knight felt like it was kind of self-contained. Like, maybe it belongs in the Marvel Universe, but they weren't bending over every 5 minutes to try and plug another commercial for some other show or movie. And that was really refreshing. And as was actually the fact that we didn't do a great big CGI ancient Egypt superhero fight. I think that would have been a major bummer and not added anything to the story. I think it worked just the way that it was, and really loved that I didn't feel like I needed a doctorate in the last 6 months of the MCU to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
No compulsion to go check out the Eternals to figure out who these people are and what you missed.
None.
Right.
0.
Good. Last bit of news. Elizabeth Olsen. This one's for Nina. Elizabeth Olsen was interviewed by the New York Times recently, and she said about her Marvel contract, quote, "It took me away from the physical ability to do certain jobs that I thought were more aligned with the things I enjoyed as an audience member. And this is me being the most honest. I started to feel frustrated. I had this job security, but I was losing these pieces that I felt were more part of my being. And the further I got away from that, the less I became considered for it." And apparently one of these roles was in The Lobster, which is a movie
That's right.
I personally disliked. So I'm kind of glad she wasn't in it.
That's Yorgos Lanthimos?
I don't know how to say his name. I'm not even going to try.
I'm spitballing. It's the same way he did The Favorite and
Right, exactly.
I watched that movie on a date.
How'd that go?
We don't talk anymore.
So then what was interesting about this conversation as well was that at the end of Infinity War, she satisfied her contract with Marvel. And she came back when Kevin Feige offered WandaVision to her. And so that was an interesting fact. I didn't realize that she came back for WandaVision, that WandaVision wasn't just a part of that contract. And then the New York Times writer asked if she would star in her own Scarlet Witch / Wanda solo movie. And she said, quote, "I think I would, but it really needs to be a good story. I think these films are best when it's not about creating content, but about having a very strong point of view, not because you need to have a 3-picture plan." Nina, what's your reaction to all of this? 1, she couldn't get some of these movie roles because she was stuck in her Marvel contract. 2, she came back just for WandaVision because there was something interesting going on. 3, she would star in her own Wanda movie if the story was right. What's your reaction?
So I really like Elizabeth Olsen. I like, as an actress, I've seen her in a ton of stuff. She's in this really good, weird indie movie called, I hope I get this order right, Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene, where she escapes from a cult. And like goes to live with like her sister and tries to kind of put her life back together after, being in a cult. And she's really, really funny in a movie that I like a lot called Ingrid Goes West. That's about social media where Aubrey Plaza stalks her. It's really good. And she's great in it. And she's a really interesting actor, and it's really funny to me because she got her start first of all, by being born with the last name Olsen, kind of, but she did
Right.
she went to NYU. She had like a normal like college life, and then she started acting in smaller indie movies. And then all of a sudden she gets kind of swept into the Marvel machine. I'm not surprised that WandaVision was the thing that got her back, because it was such a good meaty role, and I think
She earned an Emmy for it.
she didn't win.
Earned an Emmy nomination for it.
Yeah. And you know what? Frankly, I think she should have won, but I also think Kate should have won. No, I mean, I also think Kate Winslet's Delco accent was bad. So it's personal. But no, she's WandaVision gave her so much to play with, and I think that we're all in agreement, and much of the internet and fans are as well, that, you know, WandaVision was a show that had to have a strong central performance or it wouldn't have worked, and she certainly delivered that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I see her as somebody who's a little pickier about, like, if the story is good, which I guess Multiverse of Madness was probably a contract thing, because we talked about it, and I've now read articles where people are like, yeah, her character was flattened, like, her only thing was, I am mom, and, like, it wasn't the most interesting way to make her into the bad guy. I'm not alone in that, thankfully. And so, you know, that was probably in her contract. I don't think that was her best story. I would love to see a standalone movie, maybe before the character is killed off in a different project.
I mean, didn't she already get killed off? Didn't she flatten herself with a giant hunk of rock?
I don't know. That was one Wanda. Aren't there like a million jillion others?
That's true. There's infinite Crisis on Infinite Wandas.
Right.
Is coming through.
But no, I mean, like, I'm talking about Black Widow. Did you not get the subtweet about Black Widow? That's what I was talking about.
No, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe she could have a movie before she dies.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes.
I'm not bitter. Anyway, I've been talking for a really long time. I like Elizabeth Olsen. I don't want her to be creatively pigeonholed by the MCU machine. She's done really great work, and I want her to keep doing great work in it, but if it's not up to snuff, then, you know, get out of there and take your Marvel money and start producing really good indie movies of your own.
Go do something cool and different. And leave Wanda behind.
She's super talented. She's got a really cool career ahead of her, and I don't want to, you know, see her play one character over and over again forever. I doubt she wants that either.
One of the reasons I love WandaVision so much is exactly what you said, and her performance and Paul Bettany's performance. They
so good.
They make that show transcend all the MCU stuff in such a way that it's just flat out one of my favorite TV shows of the last bunch of years, just because it's so different and interesting. It's a critique of television in a way. It's a subversion of television. I love it.
And the way that they and Catherine Hahn all handle the decade jumps is so seamless. They're so good. Yeah.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that, I mean, I'd love to see her come back and play the character again, if for no other reason than I know that that they're capable of doing great stuff with her.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, I agree with you. I think, you know, if she's able to break free and do cool stuff outside of the MCU, I'm ready for it to happen.
Yeah, 'cause she has the Hollywood clout now, so I would like to see her utilize that in a more interesting way.
For sure. Tom?
Can I just say that my favorite, like, contrived answer from actors that you hear is like, yeah, I'd come back as long as it's a good story. I just want to hear somebody admit that they'll come back
as long
no
as
matter
I get
what
a
the story is.
lot of
Like,
money.
yeah, no, exactly right.
Yeah.
You know, if the check clears, I think I'll come back. I don't care what the script looks like. I want us all
like that's
laughing
something
between
that, like,
takes and how bad the dialogue is.
I feel like that's
want us
what like
all
Michael Caine would say or something.
vomiting.
Yeah, Michael Caine is the only one who's ever been straight about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
The famous quote, "Did you ever see Jaws 3? No, but I saw the house that the movie
exactly.
bought."
That's why I
That's the
brought
house
it
that
up.
it paid for.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Just 4, Brian. Just 3.
Just 4,
Dennis
sorry.
Quaid in 3D.
So sorry.
Ooh.
Thanks for watching Everything Marvel. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more videos about your favorite Marvel stuff is coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.